Hey, what's up, everyone? Brad Chmielewski here. This is episode 114 of Shatter The Vain. I got DragonBorne joining me again on this episode. I think this is his fifth time being on the podcast. It's been a little while since he's been on. I think it was March was the last time he was on, and a lot has changed with what he's been up to. Team Phoenix has grown quite a bit. There are now two VIS leagues happening, the VIS32 and then the VIS Pro. So I get into all of that with him and what the difference are of the two, because sometimes you see him on Twitter and you're like, which one is this? Where's one broadcast? Where's the other one not broadcast? And just some of the stuff that they've been building and doing with it. The broadcast continues to keep getting better. He talks a lot about what Forecourt Jester is doing, not only on the shoutcasting front, but behind the scenes, just to make the stream top notch and one of the best competitive broadcasts out there. So awesome to have him back on and hear what he's up to. We also dive into Samuel, the new hero that's headed for update 1.21 that should be here any day now. I could see that dropping this week, but we'll have to see what happens. We don't have those patch notes yet. As recording this, I don't have the patch notes, but we do have some gameplay. We've seen a lot of people playing Samuel on the PBE and whatnot, so very cool, excited, always awesome to see a new hero. Because then maybe I'll get to play Lyra, because we'll be banging out Samuel instead of Lyra, so I can finally start recording and posting some videos of Lyra on the YouTube channel. The games this week for myself have been going pretty well. I've been bouncing between POA Bronze and POA Silver. Just that grind into gold. I don't know. We'll keep going. See how solo queue treats us over the next month for this patch before the end of the season. But let's do it. Let's jump into episode 114.
Shatter the Vain, a podcast about Vainglory.
This is the 114th episode of Shatter the Vain. My name is Brad Chmielewski, and this is a podcast all about Vainglory. Every week, try to break down the news, gameplay, game tips, and hopefully we can all become better players together. And this week, joining me again, it's been a while, is DragonBorne. Welcome back.
Thanks, Brad. Yeah, it's been a long time.
I think the last time you were on, it was sometime in March, so that seems super far away now from where everything's gone and what you've been up to too.
Yeah, it was the start of the spring season, and then now we're getting into the summer season, wrapping that up. It's been a long time, but a lot of exciting things have happened. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, for people that either haven't seen you around for the years now and haven't watched you on VIS or anything, you want to give a quick introduction, and then we can dive into some of the stuff you're working on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the co-producer and caster for the Vainglory Invitational Series, as well as being the COO of Team Phoenix, and kind of a right-hand man to Closet Nerd, who runs the team and organization. So shout out. I mean, it's a really awesome it's really awesome to be part of that organization, as they've kind of come from nothing, a lot of hard work.
Sure.
And we've been able to build a pretty awesome organization. But I also do the Vainglory Invitational Series, which is kind of a combination of two different things. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want me to break it down right now, but
yeah,
get into that a little bit.
For sure. So when the summer season started, we saw Vainglory come in with Evil 8, and the VGL that we all knew kind of it morphed into what Evil 8 is now. But they also wanted to keep Blueberries and the tournaments that you and everyone at Team Phoenix have been putting together with VIS kind of involved in this challenger part, right?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess to start the story, you got to go a little bit back to the spring season when we decided we got Mob Crush to come in and sponsor this really cool tournament of just the top teams. We figured, you know what, people really just want to see the best teams play every single week. And we thought we could do that very well. It was pretty ambitious. It was a lot of work, and it wasn't flawless the first season. It's never flawless, any stream.
Sure.
There's always something that can happen or go wrong, but we try our best to get better. and it was really awesome. We did really well. The viewerships were really great. It caught a lot of people's attention, and it did catch Super Evil Megacorp and Twitch when they came up with something interestingly similar. I mean, they said, you know what, that's a really good formula. People want to see the best teams play every weekend, because watching a seed one Hammer's Velocity go up against a seed 32 is just
It's not interesting. Yeah.
it's miserable. It's miserable. So, the actually Evil 8 kind of took on that structure as well, that formula of the best teams playing every week, and approached us. And, VGL, of course, morphing into this Challenger series when we got started in the summer season. And we were extremely honored and extremely excited because we felt like we could do a really great job and we could work really, really hard because we have a ton of volunteers who work tirelessly
Sure.
on these new things. And big shout out to the likes of Boys Noise and Forecourt Jester, because they were able to come up with some amazing stuff. Oh, and Make It Shine. Can't leave him out, because they were able to really pull a lot of great talent with visual graphics and programming to kind of make a pretty awesome stream. And that's where we kind of started. We split the Vainglory Invitational Series into two categories. There was the VIS32, which was the Challenger Series that was officially sanctioned by Super Evil Megacorp, where the teams could earn points to get into the Evil 8 through the challenge battles. And then we broke the second half into VISPro, which was the original VIS programming, where it was the top teams playing every single week. And we expanded it to 8 teams. So the first season was kind of short because it was new to us as well.
Right. So you didn't want to see it go away when Super Evil came in. Like you guys liked that format, and it seemed like the community liked it as well too.
Yeah, and we liked it, and a lot of people liked it, and we felt like more was great. I mean, and the teams liked it. I think that was the most surprising part, was how excited some of the teams were to be the part of this, even though they were already playing in the Evil 8 and they were already practicing all the time. They found this as another great way. I mean, there was obviously a cash prize associated, so it's always important. But and big thanks to our sponsor Mob Crush that made that happen, and that's a big factor. But these teams wanted to be able to continually play and show off their skill, and they felt like it was a great way to get better.
Right, and they got to, like, the format's a little different than your Evil 8, where you have your team and you have to stick by it. In VISPro, you have this group of, you have a team or like players you register, right? But then you can mix it up at any point.
Yeah, it is. It's different. So, and that's something that we were pretty proud of, and we changed it even more. So when we started the summer season, we wanted to keep that formula of, it was an organization-based tournament where an organization could field and change out their players as the season went on, for 2 reasons. One, because it allowed flexibility. As people went to the summer season, there were a lot of people on vacation, and we knew that. Yeah. And we found that this was a great way to mix people up and allow an org to kind of switch around. It's something that you can't do in the Evil 8, is if you have a player on one team, you can't switch them to another team in that season during that split, because they didn't want that specifically, because that's a much different competition format. But for us, we felt like it was great to showcase the full org, and we wanted to build around that formula. But we introduced this season as well, as we got away from the best of 3 series, and we went to a best of 2, where each team got equal amount of playtime on either A or B side, and it was just points based.
Okay, that's nice. So there was never, so at the end, sometimes there's ties, and it's just a point.
There can be, and we have the same kind of tiebreaker rules that you'll see across a lot of different tournaments. Obviously, once you get down, we can go to our rules and take a look at, but there's a lot of different factors to help prevent dead ties. And then if there is a complete, statistical tie, there will be tiebreakers held to kind of break that. So that's what makes us kind of stand apart from a lot of other orgs. And we also have, every week we have 2 games a week. And they could be either on Monday, Friday, or Thursday, and they're double headers. Okay. 2 teams play a best of 2, and then we go to the second game of the night where another 2 teams will play a best of 2. And it's a pretty sweet format, because you get to see 4 competitive teams play a night, 8 total in that week, in a kind of a different style than you're typically used to seeing.
Mm-hmm. So does the day, you said, could be any of those days, does it just change because of the other events that are happening and just...
Yeah, we had to be very flexible with Vainglory Invitational League with the challenge battles, which just took place this Saturday and closed out the VIS32 side of the season. VIS32 closed with, it was an incredible stream, EU and NA alike. battling out in challenge battles. Probably the most fun I had streaming, and definitely you guys want to watch that. I know I'm plugging myself. It was really really great because it was exciting to see. Honestly, like these young teams come up, and like Nemesis Titan was super surprising to see them kind of come up through the ranks
Yeah.
and really make an impact and make it into the Evil Eight. That was, I think, a lot of surprising to see them knock off Necrolite, which was another team that made its way through the Challenger Series into the Evil Eight.
Any other surprises that you saw from either new names or new players that, because we're very accustomed to the Evil Eight players and teams.
Yeah, I was surprised that Gangstars didn't play as well as I thought. I was really thinking that their new roster they had mixed up. It was actually Inane, Lone Delphi, and Mac Daddy playing, and they were really strong. And in Challenger Series, they were extremely dominant.
Yeah.
Only really following to Nemesis, but they actually beat out Nemesis Titan as well. But it just seemed like Lone Delphi was not available to play and did not play at all during those challenge battles. And unfortunately, they went down a lot easier than I anticipated. And I think that was a fact that they had a roster that maybe wasn't their best. But I can't really say for sure, as I wasn't behind the curtain to seeing the decisions being made.
And a new roster that's kind of being put together and trying to find its place again, I think, on the Gangsters NA side. That's cool. So then, so as far as like, do you even have time to play the game when you're doing all these tournaments? And like,
I mean, I do, and it means I stay up really late.
Okay.
I still wake up early for my normal job, but I stay up really late so I can get in my battle royales and rank games. And needless to say, my grinding in Elo has been very slow.
Okay.
But I love the streaming side of it. As you know, because I've been on the show before, I started streaming a year and a half ago at this point, and I just fell in love with the idea of streaming in addition to Vainglory. And I've only ever streamed Vainglory minus 2 or 3 times I streamed. I think I streamed 1 Clash Royale and then 1 Rock Band just because. But for the most part, I've been a diehard Vainglory streamer, and this was kind of the trifecta of what I wanted to build. I wanted to build a great organization. I wanted to be a part of a great organization.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a streamer, and I wanted to stream a tournament of sorts. I was never a great caster, but I really was a great talker, and I could definitely talk, behind the scenes or do like desk analysis talking, and this kind of plays to my strengths, and I get to be a part of something that I absolutely love.
Well, being a shoutcaster is tough. Like watching Four Chord and Tasty Bacon and all those guys like do it. They do it so well, and you're like, oh, I can't even keep up with what's happening that quickly.
Yeah, they're like Four Chord and Humanist. Oh my god, I have a huge bro crush on Humanist because his style of talking is so entertaining to me. It's kind of like exactly how I wish I could cast and talk. Unfortunately, I'm light years away, but hopefully someday I kind of figure out his secret and break that code.
Yeah, I'll have to get him here on the podcast and ask what his secret is, just for you.
Some secret sauce he consumes every day. It's probably illegal, I'm sure.
So what's next as the VIS Challenger 32 wrapped up, and then the Pro? Are we going to see bigger? Are we going to see you're going to do a third tournament now? You got time for that?
No, so like, VIS32 and Pro are all we have right now. And there is, of course, some pretty exciting stuff in the pipeline that is coming before the end of the season that I can't talk about right this second, but stay tuned for it. It's going to be pretty exciting. But so with the summer season for Challenger for VIS32 wrapping up, we still have VISPro, and that was something we really felt strongly about, and this is something we did last season, was we wanted to make sure VISPro continued, because there's kind of like this lull right before and after live finals where there's not a lot of competitive content with Vainglory, and we felt like we could fill that, and we are going to fill that with some really exciting matchups where these teams leading up right before they kind of have to start flying out for live finals, and then of course right after, we're still doing the summer season, and the summer season's still in effect. And we think that that's pretty exciting because it allows the viewers to continually see these teams go at it, and in different formats you get to see different meta structures and teams try different things. And VISPro has definitely delivered on the teams being able to continually push like different metas, different comps that they end up sometimes using when they go to their final live championship, which I think is still the pinnacle goal with a lot of these teams. So we're excited to be that like additional content for these binge watchers of competitive Vainglory.
All right, yeah, because the Evil 8 is like the top thing, and but you do need to try and play and see how some new comps work. Like, oh, is this character actually good here? I can do it in ranked queue, but in a competitive setting, like really, how does this play out?
Yeah, and there's really nothing like a competitive match. You'll hear a lot of the competitive players say, like, when you go to a live championship, for instance, or when you're in a tournament, it's almost like it breeds its own meta for those 2 or 3 days where the teams are going at it, and it's just different than going on ranked and playing ranked day in, day out. It has a different feel. It can be a lot more intense for a lot of these players. And so I think VISPro continues to deliver that excitement that you can only get from competitive Vainglory.
Do you think we'll see almost like a finals at some point for VISPro, like a
Always,
like
always.
no
We
like
always have a
like a event like a Evil 8 like World Championships kind of finals?
I don't think we'll be able to pull something
Okay.
like that yet, but I can never rule it out because we are always trying to push the boundaries. Thanks to the incredible talent from our graphic designer and Forecourt, who's you may know him as a shoutcaster. He is an incredibly talented programmer, and we've been able to put together some incredible overlays with some great visuals. Something that we think rivals even the Evil 8 production, and we're constantly looking to get better. And so what we've been able to do is bring matchup screens that really are dynamic. And we have so much more in the pipeline that we want to continually build upon to bring like the best production. But live events, they're tricky. I'll tell you that. They're definitely tricky. There's a lot more involved, but it's something that obviously if we could wish for anything, that would be an obvious, check mark that we
Possibly
want.
next time. Yeah. Interesting.
Someday.
Cool.
We don't know.
Right. The game moves so quickly and the scene has been growing, new people have been coming in, so it's a wild ride.
It is, and you know what? The what makes it possible is a lot of new sponsors have come into the scene. Like, a year ago, you would never have imagined SteelSeries or Need for Seat would be such an active sponsor and partner with a lot of these different venues, these different events, and different teams. And we've been very fortunate to utilize that and get a lot of these sponsors. We have Band help partnering with this as well as Vivi, but our bigger sponsors like Mob Crush, Need for Seat, and SteelSeries, they have been really incredible and really excited about like the content we're making and excited about Vainglory in general. And I think that's a good sign. A lot of people can be kind of like naysayers and doomsayers about, oh, Vainglory's falling off, but the sponsors see potential and they see a lot of growth still to come. And I think that that's a good sign for the game.
Yeah, there is a little naysay sometimes in the community about the not growth, but
Sometimes
it's still, there's new players coming in. The potential is always there for like, there's so many mobile devices, and there's just one thing could trip it off and it could just explode. Never know what that magic thing could be.
And that's and just to kind of come back to it one last time, that's such an important part, I think, what Super Evil did with the Challenger series. They finally made something that really allowed a young team to kind of form and grow with young new talent, where it was previously almost impossible because the top 8 teams are so exponentially better than a lot of the bottom teams that it was really difficult for a new young team to come in and fuse because they were going up against right out of the gate like really, really tough teams. And there's a lot to be said about a team beating and winning and getting that confidence because it helps fuel those aspirations of those young players to be better. And I think the Challenger series, I give a lot of credit to Super Evil on this. It's a great format, and it's actually worked out way better than I thought initially, just because it was an unknown to me and to many. And I think that you're going to see, there was a lot of teams that kind of fell short, but they highlighted a lot of great talent, like Team Parallel, a lot of great talent. We saw a lot of great talent out of teams that were, typically were ranked very low, but like Team Mutiny, where they continually outperformed their ranking because they played really well together versus their overall elo. And that's I think where the Challenger series excels at. And we're hopefully going to be coming back with season 2 of the Challenger for us, but the fall season, the autumn season, hopefully as everything goes to plan.
And that's a good place for like the bigger organizations and guilds and to scout out some players. Like, well, these people are leaving. We see talent here. I think they just maybe need a captain or a coach, and we could really push them over the edge. So some new blood is always nice.
important. It's great. It's really great to see.
Well, should we jump into this week's news? What's been happening in the game?
Yep.
Vainglory News.
So, to start it off, we finally got some more information on Samuel, the Dark Mage. I know you tweeted out about the lore, that this was maybe your favorite lore. Like, if you were going to read one, read this one.
Yeah, this one was pretty good. It's pretty good because it's up until this point, my favorite lore was the Stormguard lore, the whole Catherine, Arden, and the Julia and her family. And I think that that was my favorite lore because of the family dynamic. And there was a lot of emotion there. And I don't know if it stemmed from Sugar Venom's personal experience. She writes the lore for anyone who doesn't know. She's awesome. Follow her on Twitter. And it feels like she had something to say here too, because there was a lot of like deep, dark mother-son kind of dynamics going on where you could tell there was a troubled soul. It really reminded me a lot of like the coming of age of like any of the great villains that you hear about in mythology and in stories. Like you think of like the telling of like Voldemort or all these different different characters in these different stories where they started off as kind of good and they kind of fell to the dark side, like a Darth Vader kind of story where and actually the newest Star Wars kind of touched on this too, where you have someone who there was so much pressure on him to be great that he ended up potentially, I don't know the end of the lore yet because she hasn't released it.
Yeah.
But you get the feeling just because of how his character comes in the game that Samuel like caved to darkness because of all this pressure from his mom to and from like the leadership from his group to be this great thing that he couldn't aspire to. And to me, that's always like the most exciting kind of story, because that's kind of how darkness and evil usually transpires through, aspiring, motivated young youth. They end up falling that way just because of pressure.
And usually with the dark side, you get the power much quicker without the work. Like, so it's the goal of like, well, I can be a super badass and not have to like try and train for 50 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because because it comes naturally, and it's also forbidden, and it's a rebellion against what everyone around you is telling you have to become. And what's exciting about these stories though is they either end in tragedy, which is great story lore, or they end with renewal and salvation, like someone coming back and learning like, oh wow, there's more to it than I thought and realized, and there's a lot of good I can do versus evil. And we'll see what Sugar Venom does. My guess though is from her tweet that it's going to be a pretty dark story.
Okay. I guess we probably should have seen another lore today, or it might drop on Monday when this episode goes up, because 1.21 is going to be here. I'm thinking this week. Just the amount of stuff we have coming for this game, or coming for this update and already revealed, and PvE is playing these characters, like everything's already out there. So it's super close.
It's really exciting. But it's one of my favorite lores. Everyone's got to read it. Samuel is a really relatable young man trying to come of age with a lot of responsibilities, and I think it's a great story.
But we did get his reveal of his abilities. We don't have that hero spotlight yet or anything, but we could go over his abilities and talk about what he can do.
Yeah.
So his heroic perk is called Corrupted Genius. After 6 seconds, Samuel's next basic attack fires a bolt of dark power at the target, dealing bonus crystal damage. This attack restores some health and energy, I assume, to him. So it's kind of like he has built-in lifesteal in his abilities. That's kind of awesome.
It's pretty awesome.
And these attacks look really cool, like just the particles on them and the animation.
Yeah. And the animation, it's such a dark magic look to how he moves around, very much like a sorcerer. And it's a super cool look for anybody who's into kind of mythology. It just has that, very like he has a lot of power around him, and you get that sense because he levitates, he moves around. It's really cool.
And then his A ability is called Lace and Verdict. So these are, I believe, Samuel's wands right? So Samuel fires 2 quick shots from his wands at a target location that impact on the first enemy hit. Samuel can move between the shots. If Samuel is standing inside his field of Drifting Dark, which is his B, we'll get in a second, this ability is empowered. While empowered, the shots move faster, travel farther, dealing additional damage, and burst upon impact. This is a long ability. In addition, the cooldown for this ability is reduced when he's inside his Drifting Dark. So then his Drifting Dark, we'll just quickly, because they go together, Samuel creates this large field of darkness. It's huge. It's the size of a lane.
It's enormous.
Yeah. And it slowly drifts in the direction that you click on it, damaging enemies who stand inside it. And if Samuel also stands inside it, he heals for a small amount for each affected attack. Whew, okay.
Yeah. I mean, so I have not had a chance to playtest Samuel at all. I've been so busy with this, as you were alluding to. It's been very hard, but I have had a few times to get in there, and I can tell you just from watching the videos that have been released, that Dark Gloom, it is the scariest thing. Like you see that come out, and you just want to get away. You don't want to be anything to do with it, because there's a lot of complexity to his kit, and it makes him. I'm glad they added some of it, because otherwise it would be too overpowered if they just made it like, here, he has all these abilities. So they really make a lot of complexity for skilled players to make really key decisions, so that way the really good players get really good at it. But it's such a cool twist on a lot of little hero perks that we've seen in a lot of other heroes. And it's definitely, a lot of people are saying he's overpowered, although they did nerf him in the beta recently to try to make sure he's not released overpowered. And I think that from what I've heard, his kit's just very strong, but hopefully he's balanced, because they've toned him down a little bit. As you can imagine, anytime a hero can get lifesteal from his attacks and deal additional attacks, and it's something that you see with Vox, where they're attacking so much that there's just nothing you can do to counter it.
Yeah, so that lifesteal, like I think he's gonna be pretty squishy. So if you can jump on him and burst him down real quick, like he's out of that fight fast. But I think you're gonna be able to predict, like early on, until players really get a hang of his kit, like you're gonna want to stand inside this Drifting Dark, or think you want to. So the enemy's gonna be like, well, just gauntlet him, or trap him in there with Lyra's B and just like kill him that way, like, because where he's gonna, his direction, sort of. But
a lot of people are gonna use that as kind of a full, like, misdirection. I see people do that with flares all the time, and I think you'll see that a lot with this, because you don't know for sure. Okay, is he in there? Is he not? Here it comes, and it definitely can startle you. It can catch you off guard, like, what's going on? Are they engaging, or is this just a misdirection? But it's a pretty cool kit. I hopefully can get more time to play it, so I can be more knowledgeable. Unfortunately, I just don't know all the ins and outs of how it's gonna look.
Sure, yeah. And then his ultimate ability is called Oblivion. After a short delay, Samuel spawns a phantasm at the target location, which puts nearby enemies to sleep. So this is a new CC we haven't had in the game yet. Enemies afflicted are unable to move or attack. Dealing direct damage to a sleeping enemy with an attack or ability will wake them up. So it's kind of like a silence or a stun, but you just don't want to attack them then. Like, you could almost like do it to run away. It's almost like a good escape, but also the sleep on maybe if you're trying to turret dive, that's really interesting.
It's very cool, and it's probably one of the coolest ultimates, because they keep adding complexity to CC, which is great, because pure stuns are, it's really, really strong, and it also kind of eliminates the ability to strategize, and so if you give someone a pure stun, that's a lot of CC, where you can give them something that's not overpowered but very cool. Like, this sleep is probably my favorite CC that's come out, because it's really a decision: are you running away or you're engaging? Because there's a lot of advantages to sleeping someone, so that you have enough time to engage even harder and maybe drop a heliogenesis on them, something where you can really deal a lot of damage, even if it means waking them back up. And it's going to just continually add some pretty exciting team fights, because you're going to be constantly like, okay, I don't want this to happen. What decision do you make? It may not be the right one. To see how this plays out in team fights will be very curious, because I can imagine that a lot of players or teams might use it to try to disengage so that they can re-engage later. But it would be curious to see if they just end up using it as an engagement tool just so they can get closer, like the rest of the team, if it's like a melee team or something like that.
Or if you use it to like stop the Arden or Catherine that are in the front line, so you can then dive quickly to the back line. Like, all right, you're asleep. We don't even want to attack you. So let's get back there now.
Yeah, it's not for a horrible long time though.
Yeah.
It's I think how many seconds? I don't know if they released the exact seconds.
They didn't say in these
It's
notes.
not a long time, so it's not like you're talking about like a 3-second stun or anything like that. But it is a cool technique, it's a cool ability, a cool CC that I think. I mean, right now his kit has a lot of very unique, very exciting attributes that I think you'll see huge impact on team fights. And I think that the only concern that a lot of competitive players I have say is whenever you make a hero with such a good kit, it doesn't matter how many times you nerf him, they're still really strong, like Vox was.
Yeah.
and people will always remember, like, okay, that was they nerfed him like 5 times in a row, and he still was winning tournaments. So you may see something like that with Samuel, where if his kit really synergizes well with certain players, certain heroes, you're gonna see him kind of come out overpowered, and it's not because of anything related to his stats, just his pure mechanics of his kit.
And I think he's, like you were talking about the animations, like I think the fluidity of him will, a lot of pro players, a lot of people are just going to want to play that over someone maybe like Celeste or Scarf, just because it feels good, I guess.
Yeah, it was like Sky, where there was a really fun hero to play because you could move around and you could do your kit was a lot of fun, and it gave you a lot of mobility. And it was, a lot of CC too, with the Death from Above. So I think you'll see something where players really adapt to this new kind of movement and strategy that this kit brings, because it's amazing how fast they do.
Yeah. It's probably going to be really strong in Battle Royale if you get them in BRs.
Well, hopefully they look at like nerfing certain people or heroes in Battle Royale, because it's definitely interesting. They're still very strong heroes. And I have to wonder if when they match you up with random heroes, if they give you like counters, like that would be really cool, is if they like tried to balance the teams a little bit. Although that doesn't prevent teams from re-rolling.
Right.
But it's definitely a problem I found, where some heroes are extremely overpowered in certain team companies, Battle Royale, versus others.
But it's random, so sometimes you get it, sometimes you fight against it.
Yeah, it might be truly random. I'm curious. I bet you there's an algorithm though that kind of somewhat keeps it balanced. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not.
So then moving on, coming in 1.21 are some really fun skins, and one of them is this Summer Party Phinn skin. So controversy over this, and we talked about it on the last episode of the podcast, that Summer Party Phinn was going to be available pretty much exclusively to people that went to the events over the summer, the live finals, Gamescom, PAX, TwitchCon, things like that. And a lot of people on Twitter were very upset about that. And this got changed. So Summer Party Phinn, you're now going to be able to get, I think you're going to be able to get this pretty easily, because every streamer and content creator are going to be able to give away skins. As far as how they'll do it, I think is very up to them. If they do it like a raffle, or if they're just like the first person to comment, or things like that. But the number of people making content now for Vainglory is growing, and we have been seeing more and more streamers pop up, maybe to give away these skins, but also I think there's just more people getting into streaming the game.
Right. I wasn't opposed to it. I love exclusivity. It makes collecting it, for a lot of these people, this is what it is. It's collecting skins.
Yeah.
It makes it more worthwhile. I mean, you're spending a lot of money on these skins in some cases, and it's nice to get rewarded for your dedication to the game, whether it's going to live finals. And it's also a way to encourage people to be more active, to get out of their house and go to these events, because if you're not into the competitive gameplay, these events are still so exciting to go to, because you meet so many great people, and you meet the devs, and you meet people you've played with or watched play on stream. You just got to go see it. And to see Vainglory played live is a feeling that it's second to none. So I think that I was really actually kind of sad, because I was one of the few people that really, really, really wanted this to be something exclusive to a live event, even if I didn't go. because I felt like that was something that was lacking in Vainglory, was some of these really cool exclusivities that make going to live events worthwhile. But yes, the internet, they were mad. A lot of these kids are young; they can't travel to these events. A lot of these
Sure.
kids can't, or even if they could, there's a lot of just challenges with them wanting to go, stuff like that. So I think that there was more of those people who wanted to go and couldn't, and they felt like this was unfair to them.
Hmm.
And I understand that point of view as well. And so I'm really excited. I think that they're still doing a good job of keeping it pretty exclusive. Like, not anybody is going to be able to get this skin. This is still going to be, you either have to show up to streams to get it or go to a live event. And they expanded the events that you could get it at as well. That was, I think, the
Yeah.
big shift. Went from like a live finals only to a lot of different venues that will be doing Vainglory over
Yeah.
the summer and in the fall. But they're giving it away on the streams was really great too, because they really wanted to encourage and kind of reward a lot of these content creators who've been keeping at it and bringing out great content for Vainglory. And they wanted to say, hey, you know what? Show up to these guys, and this helps them too. Now you can also get a skin that otherwise you couldn't have gotten.
So I'll probably be giving some away here on the podcast. You may be giving some away on this, right?
I mean,
Possibly.
maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I want one.
Yeah.
And I want one really badly. So if you're giving some away,
I have
let's-
some to give. I have some to give away once the update happens. Don't have any right now, but yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, yeah. I mean, how can you hook me up?
All right.
No, so yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to get people onto these streams, and I think that that's a win-win. The goal of getting the fan base active is great, and whether it's active watching on Twitch or YouTube, or listening to a podcast, or it's active going to a live event, I think that it's great that both are rewarded equally.
And then if you'll remember where you got that skin. If you're like, oh, I got that from Brad on Shatter The Vain, or I got that from Phariss's stream. Like, he asked this question, and like, so it almost
Yeah.
makes it like even that much more special. And just like, here you go, here's a free skin.
Yeah, I am going to be hounding every single stream and channel for a skin, like until I get one.
All right, I'm sure you know a few people. You have no problem.
Hopefully, I'm gonna do it the fair way.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it the fair way.
We did get the reveal of the other skins available in this update as well. So the Summer Party Kestrel. This people are pretty excited about this skin. We got to see the video of her in her heel flippers running around.
Yeah, you saw that. I saw that right away. Was like, oh, that's unique.
We haven't seen the in-game footage of Finn, so I'm interested to see. But I think my favorite out of the Summer Party so far is Saw. Like, I think his recall animation just like makes his the best for me. But it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, and to see them like come out with new ways to get skins and new skins, because for a lot of people that are hardcore players, it's like I said, it's a collection. It's like collecting stamps or coins. This is something you care about, and it also kind of shows a lot of people like how long you've been playing the game. Like, whenever I pull out Baywitch Celeste, people are like, "Whoa, you've been playing since that autumn season last year." Yeah, I mean, to me, it's crazy that I've been playing a long time a game that's so young, but for a lot of new players, they could only dream of having that skin. And I'm
Right.
sure it'll come out in some way, in some
point, yeah.
form for other people to get, but it is really cool. And it makes me desire to have these skins, especially the exclusive ones, because it's something that I can kind of show. And it kind of is like a badge of honor for me. I don't know, it's different for different people, but for me, it's super exciting to pull out a skin that I know kind of dates to where I started playing Vainglory.
Yeah, no, I like pulling out the Baywitch Celeste or Pumpkin Spice Petal. It's like, yeah, these were the first ones.
They were the first exclusive skins. They were awesome.
So then we also have Broken Doll Alpha Tier 2 coming, which that splash art is pretty fun. I'm interested to see where they go for 3, because this one looks really nice. Northwind Rhyme Tier 3. Hard to tell like if this one's going to be more lightning and flames, like if they went that direction, like because he is that ice mage, so I don't know.
Yeah, I hope so, because I love lightning, and that's one of the things I love about when I saw the animation for Samuel. There's a little bit of lightning in there. It's super cool, and I really hope you see a lot more of that. There could never be enough lightning and thunder. So bring it on. Flames, lightning, thunder, definitely my favorite animations for attacks. So hopefully it looks good so far. They're going with a very like kind of mythological Viking style.
Yeah.
It looks really, really good. Very like kind of like a god that you'd see from mythology.
So they went through rhyme skins really quickly, and now we're gonna have to wait. I wonder if they'll hold off on Alpha Tier 3 for a while, or if she'll come like right away on the next one. And it's interesting to see which heroes get skins like really fast, and sometimes we get like a Tier 1 this month, and like 3 months away we get the Tier 2.
And I think it has more to do with they have like a set amount they want to get out. Like they're like, all right, we want to get like a couple out like every update. And it probably comes to when they're ready, right? So like there's someone probably looking at him saying, "Ah, you can do better. You can do better. You can do better." And then this one's like, "Oh, this one's perfect. All right, that one goes in." And then someone might make like fortresses like tier 1, 2, and 3 were perfect, and they're like, "Oh, this is perfect. They're all ready to go. Let's just put them
go.
out there." Um, but either way, it's I don't think it really matters. Like I saw when they did all of Fortress right in a row, I wanted them all right in a row.
Okay.
And when they did them like spacing them out, it kind of was the same to me. It didn't really impact how I viewed the skin or my desire to have it.
Okay.
It was still there.
So those will all be in 1.21. Have you seen anything else from 121 from people playing it on the PvE? I know any streamer is allowed to stream it right now, so there's a lot of people. If they can get enough people
Yeah.
in there to play a match, they're often streaming it. Anything? Have you seen anything that you're excited for besides Samuel? Or
I think that it's hard to say because without the patch notes, we don't really know or publicly are allowed to talk about like the specific balances, mostly because they're not finalized, right? And I can tell you that they're balancing some things. I think that it's kind of always a balance in balancing, no pun intended, because you don't want to over or under balance a hero when the meta's already changing, and they really focus at the end of the season meta because what was very, very strong at the beginning of the season starts to people learn how to counter it.
Right.
Like it's amazing how good people are at blocking Finn pulls now. Where the Force Accord is blocked all the time. Every competitive team you see do it without any problem. And it's incredible how that became so easy when that was literally one of the hardest things to do.
Sure.
So it just people adapt. And so you don't want to change the game so much that where a hero that was only broken because of people didn't have experience playing against it ends up getting so bad that you can't play with it. So there's definitely some balancing to that.
I'm just excited for Lyra to get toned down a little bit so I can actually play her. Like I want to play her more, but she's always banned out in ranked mode. So
and that's a shame because she's not that overpowered.
No.
Her kit's very strong though. Her kit's very strong.
I've lost many a times with her. So
yeah, she's not overpowered, but the players who played a lot of her when she was overpowered got really good at her. So they definitely make her look really good. But we saw actually in competitive matches the last week, there were some teams that had Lyra that lost. So there's no denying that she is not extremely overpowered. She tends to lose to hero comps that are as equally overpowered, if not more.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people don't realize is, as these updates and metas change, there's actually overpowered heroes and team comps that people just haven't discovered yet, that when you do discover them, it just completely lays the waste of the competitive scene. So that definitely happens. We saw a lot of that with Carrie Catherine recently. And a lot of that resulted as a result of a cruel global ban and competitive scene. So there's just a lot of changes that, it's such a thin line to walk.
I know we mentioned humanist earlier, like seeing Ozo, maybe he'd get some tweaks and hopefully we get to see more of him. Like he's such an odd character that he almost gets no play in. I don't ever see him.
It's such a shame. I love playing Ozo in Battle Royale. I win a lot with him in Battle Royale, and I'm a really bad carry. So it just, for me, I think it's because he can kind of get in and deal a lot of damage fast and he has that probably my favorite ability is his banger rank. It's just such a fun to pull off when you're in all lane. So I mean he's a tough hero because you could easily make him overpowered. His kit's very strong. Yeah. I would hate to see them overpower him and then he becomes broken. So I'd like to see it keep a slight balance.
Yeah, I think he sits on that edge of one wrong number and he's just going to be able to do too much damage and 1v3 the entire team here.
It definitely. So they got to be careful there.
So get ready for 1.21. It should be here, I think, any day with these patch notes. I bet they're up after this episode goes live. That's usually what Super Evil does to me. So
maybe.
So Evil 8 wrapped up and the spring championships are coming up. Are you going this year or this season?
Haven't fully decided, but it's not a guarantee. Last year was definitely more of a guarantee. I can tell you that the teams are officially in place, so we all know. Of course, Hammer's Velocity did not get knocked out. That was some scare with a lot of people in the competitive scene because they went to play Challenger Battles the day after Gabe Vizel announced that he was leaving Hammer's Velocity. But they announced it at a time where he could announce it but still play for Hammer's Velocity. That's still a very, 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 very strong team. And so they, without any problem whatsoever, were able to fend off the challengers from the challenge battle.
Yeah.
And of course, what I think is surprising is with the Evil wrapped up, you actually have 2 Hammers teams, 2 Phoenix teams, 2 Nemesis teams, and then you have Ardent as one of the other teams, and then you have the other the last one, kind of drawing a blank.
Oh, someone's gonna be mad at us. Yeah,
it's gonna be really mad at us because we forgot the other organization. No, because Necrolite got knocked out. So I'll definitely think about it. Oh, TSM.
Yeah.
Wow. That's whoops. Sorry about that, Flash. And so it's really it's incredible. Like, I mean, right now it's really stacked on these top organizations. And I know I'm going to go off topic here a little bit, but one of the things that you may not know is that in the rules on the Vainglory esports website, it does say that we're going to a 1-team globally no earlier than January 17th.
Okay, so may not be the next split, but it should be the one after that.
May not be. There's no confirmation on that. I think it'd be kind of bold if they did it that soon because there needs to be more orgs paying players in Vainglory. Like if you just cut the paying orgs in half and now you have players that don't get paid, that kind of sucks. But more importantly, I think it's going to be a huge impact because there is a very top-heavy competitive scene. And I think it's good right now for the players, and I think it's good for the competitive scene. But I think that eventually it could be something where it's just oversaturated branding. The challenge is, though, it's a balancing act here as well because you have a lot of orgs that need that branding to get sponsors. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how it plays out. But I wanted to mention that it's something that a lot of people may not be aware of. That's in the rules, publicly acknowledged for everyone to read.
Yeah.
I actually recommend a lot of people going because the Evil 8 is going to be really exciting because this is the first live finals that is playing off this new structure.
Mm-hmm. That should be really nice. And like the teams and watching all these games of the Evil 8, like when the best teams can face it out on stage, like it really just ups that whole thing. You mentioned the Gabe Vizel thing. We should talk about that. So there was thought that he was going to be play for Nemesis, but it did not. He's going to not play for Nemesis. He's still on Hammers for this championships, right?
So that is the biggest change to the competitive scene. Bigger than Evil 8, bigger than everything are rules. Twitch comes in and they drop a ton of rules. Again, it's public information. You can go get it at the Vainglory Esports website. And you guys really need to read it. If you're in the competitive scene, there are a ton of rules. And there are a lot of rules about how players can move around.
And when they can move around, yeah.
And especially when they can move around and when announcements are made. In fact, any swap change between teams has to be approved by Super Evil Megacorp. So you can't just swap teams anymore between orgs, especially in the Evil 8. There's a lot of compliancy rules on when you can move, and a lot of it has to deal with you can move between splits, but they don't let you switch a player from one team to another team within the same org.
Okay.
There's a lot of rules because they're trying to really cut down on kind of the free reign, swapping players, people moving around all the time that was happening in the competitive scene.
Mainly in the NA.
Mostly in the NA. It's really bad in the NA. And it's this way because there were no rules regulating it. Mm-hmm. And there really weren't a lot of very strong contracts. I mean, Vainglory is a very short season game compared to like games like League of Legends where you sign a contract, it's for 6 months or a year. Yeah. In Vainglory, it's maybe 3 months tops, right? Like to get a kid to commit to the 3 months in one team is pretty challenging. So we'll see how this happens. But yeah, a lot of rules. Everyone should go read them. And so what happened in this situation was there's a rule that says that in order to go to live finals, you must have played in the seeding plus. There's a lot of debate on what the plus means. Plus a split 2 game with the team that you're going with. Not clear if it means or, if the plus means or. Us programmers know it means and, but in legal terms, I'm not sure. But whatever the case was, it turned out that he was allowed to switch because he can play in the seeding. Well, he can't play in the seeding, but he's allowed to switch, but he's not allowed to play at live finals because of that rule.
Right.
So the interpretation was that, well, even though it's confusing what it originally meant, they came down with the ruling that no, you can't, you didn't play a game with Nemesis, and you actually can't play in the challenge battles either for the hammers. Or sorry, you can play in the challenge battles for velocity, but you can't play for seeding and live finals. Sorry to get that mixed up there.
Yeah.
So that ended up resulting, and I think they knew this. I had questioned it early on when I saw the announcement because I was like, do they know this? And I felt bad. I shouldn't have assumed that they didn't do their homework,
Right.
because they did. They did.
But it's still such a weird thing to announce, right? Like there's so little rumor here. So are we gonna see, like, TSM came in the winter season? I feel like it's setting up for another organization like a Cloud9 or someone to pick up Team Nemesis or Nemesis Hydra at that point.
Maybe. I think Nemesis Hydra has been on the radar for a big org to pick up, period.
Right.
I think that you didn't need to change anything about that team to have that happen. They are an incredibly talented team.
But the timing of it seems like we're due for another announcement or something else to change.
I mean, I can't talk about the rumors I've heard, but from what I've heard, him leaving Hammers was not as impactful. It had a lot to do with how they were doing. They weren't playing well, right? They were almost the bottom seed. They were tied for last place. That ends up resulting in a lot of personality conflicts.
Sure.
You have a lot of strong personalities. Like, you got very good players. Aloha, Dienzio, Gabe Vizzle, top competitive players, which means they're playing at a high level, but it also means that their competitive nature is at a high level. And when you're not winning, there's going to be blame. And I don't know for sure if this is what happened, but I know that that's bound to happen. And my guess is that was a bigger factor for him leaving than there was a secret plan for him to create an all-star team with Nemesis because Cloud9's coming in. Maybe that's the case. I actually predict Nemesis Hydra is probably going to get picked up by a big-time org regardless, because they're just playing that well.
They're playing really good, yeah.
If you're looking for a good team, I can't think of a better team that's basically contract-free than Nemesis Hydra. There's not many out there. So I would have to say that that's probably in a probably obvious scenario. I just don't think the Gabe Vizzle move had much to do with that.
So the bigger question would be if we see it before the summer championships or right after, depending on how Nemesis ends up doing.
I think if you're a big org coming in, I would say do it before, because I think they're going to perform no matter what.
And it's at PAX, so you're getting that spotlight anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it's huge. And I'm really excited for it being at PAX. If anyone has ever been to a PAX event, there's always a cool tournament taking place, and it's incredible. You basically have hundreds of thousands of people who otherwise would not have watched that tournament, but see MOBA, see a video game. There's chairs everywhere for people to sit. They just sit down and start watching it. Yeah. And I think this is going to be a great way to get these hardcore PC MOBA players to sit down and watch a Vainglory tournament and say, whoa, I can do that for Vainglory as well. Wow, I mean, I thought this was a League Dota thing, and now I'm going to try this out. Now I'm going to be serious about this mobile game, because there's a lot of money on that stage, and there's a beautiful production going on. I want to see that. I want to be a part of that. So that's a big time move by Super Evil. I feel like we've been talking about the competitive side a lot. It's a lot happening.
Sure, it's where a lot of the news happens. Like the skins and the updates the skins are like the fun thing, and the chests and stuff, but the esports is where, I guess, the action sometimes happens. So, cool. So get ready for Summer Champions. Get your tickets if you can make it out there. They're
gotta get them.
Super cheap. I think they're $5, so they're not. They're not.
That's if you're not going to PAX. But I would really challenge people to save as much money and go to PAX, because the event is, the live championships is going to be part of it, but you're going to have so many other cool things to do. There's so many cool people to meet. A lot of streamers who stream maybe a little bit of Vainglory, maybe no Vainglory. They will be littered across the place. It's one of the most exciting things you can do as a gamer is to go to a PAX event.
Yeah, cool. And then the last bit of news before we wrap up the news here is just the free hero rotation. Always like to mention this because everyone doesn't have them, and you get to try out some new heroes. And Lyra is free in this week's rotation. So that's pretty awesome.
Please nerf.
If you can get to play her, but if you're playing casuals, you just have to insta-lock her, right? If you want to play her.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that it seems like they actually took a good time to put her out there. And I'm glad because her early comp, I'm glad they didn't do her early, in other words, because her early stats were very, very strong. But she's actually not in a bad spot. She's not in a bad spot, maybe a little bit on the strong side. And I think that you'll see her played a lot, but it's great because she's a really fun hero to play.
And then with her in this rotation is Arden, Adagio, Taka, Blackfeather, and Kestrel. So Taka and Lyra, the ones getting banned out all the time. And with that Cruel ban, globally, we were seeing a lot more Adagio. And I think people kind of underestimate him and forgot a little bit about him with Lyra and some of these new heroes that come out. But he can still dish out a lot of damage and help your team.
Yeah. He dipped when they released 1.19 because they nerfed him pretty hard, and then they kind of gave him a little bit of a buff in 120, and that really helped. And I mean, Adagio, his ability to help himself and his teammates has always been probably the coolest attribute of him with their auto attacks. You know, to be able to buff someone's auto attack or yourselves is super, super cool. But in addition to have the healing potential, he's always had a fun kit. You're always going to see him pop in and out of meta.
And because
so play him.
Yeah, I say learn him. I think he's a good hero, just a good pocket pick to have.
Good and hard, so you really want to practice. He's challenging. He's not super easy.
So check all those people out. The rotation changes every Tuesday, so we'll see a new one as 1.21 is coming in here. And then the last thing before we get out of here is a little forum static.
Forum static.
So on the forums, I came across this topic that I think has been something on a lot of people's mind for a while, is just some way to play Vainglory in an offline mode. Like,
oh my goodness.
Just
you hear this.
Something, if it's being able to read abilities or go into practice mode or bots mode. I'm surprised we don't have this. I understand like a lot of the game takes place on the server side, and this is why we don't have
Don't be surprised.
Right?
No, it's when you get to actually understand how the game works, there's no way a mobile game could support all of that happening offline.
Okay.
You know, there's so many decisions, and a lot of it is server side, right? How much damage is dealt? All of these calculations, when you stack on top of each other, in addition to the visual stuff that's going on, that is a lot of processing power. I mean, math, which is what is happening right in the game, it takes processing power. It takes a lot of it actually to do a complex math and do it very, very fast, and to do a lot of it. And if you added all of that on top of what the iPhone is already doing and doing very well by that matter, it would be, I think, too much. And I think you would cut off a lot of older devices. And I think what makes Vainglory so great is you can play it on a $200 phone without a contract, or a free phone with contract.
Sure.
Or you can play it on a $700 phone, and you can play it well and still be good at the game. And I think that, you know, if it was just a $700 phone that you could play it on, then it would be no different than buying a $700 computer. And then you couldn't get into that those developing countries where the market for League is hard because of the price of buy-in.
Right.
You can now, right? So I think that that's a huge important distinction. Is Vainglory is mobile because of the penetration. You lose that advantage to penetrate the developing countries with cheaper mobile devices when you make that game so processor intensive.
And it would be a much bigger download, which again comes into a lot of people in other countries who have data caps and things like that. Just, I know some people have mentioned on the podcast when it's a big file, like, oh, that's too big, I can't download that. So.
But it's important to understand that how much resources are not being performed by the device that are being performed server side that make it even possible. You know, these mobile devices are incredibly strong. They're very, very fast, but the tricks that app developers and the OS developers have done to make them still seem even faster has deceived people into thinking that these are faster than PCs. They're just not. They're not faster than PCs. There's a lot less resources available. And once you know that, and you know how incredibly brilliant these developers have been to make the appearance that your phone is playing a full-fledged computer game, because all you care about is the experience you have with it. and they've been able to kind of create a very complex technology to do that. A lot of it's server side. You start to appreciate why it can only be server side, why it can't be offline,
Okay.
and appreciate the fact that there is lag because of how much is going on. It's really a different take of view. So I'm really passionate about that. Really strong opinion about it because I hear a lot of people say that. Oh, I wish it was offline. I've even wished it, but I know it's not feasible.
And I think if you're looking for, another application, something like Vainglory Fire or something, I don't think we'll ever see Super Evil put that into the game where you could go through the items and things like that. But there are other developers that do make applications that kind of go along with this if you want something like that.
I will say, just to piggyback off that, is it would be really nice to have an offline API app that could pull data right from the game on matches, like match metadata, because there is a lot of data you just can't see. You can't get that other MOBAs give you. Dota and League give you incredible deep statistical analysis that is super important for competitive teams that tell you about how a team's performing that you just don't get with Vainglory right now. And it makes being a statistician or being a game analysis, an analyst, very hard because it forces you to watch it and kind of develop these stats for yourself. It'd be cool. They could make something where it's an API where apps could pull that data that you could then use for offline viewing. That would be feasible. I've heard people talk about it. I've heard people in Super Evil talk about it. I know it's something they really care about and think about. I just don't know where it is on their priority list.
Right, yeah. I think a stable game is the most important thing on their end before an API comes into play.
Oh, I sure hope so. I sure hope so. It needs that.
But yeah, I know in League, one of my favorite stats when they added this was like knowing where you died at, and just the fact that like if you knew like, oh, I always die when I'm in the shop, like, and I can see it on the screen, like I should probably just not shop at the jungle shop anymore. Let's go home. I'm just like my odds of dying here are so high.
There are so like everyone has patterns when they play, and Vainglory, and maybe this is the reason they don't release them. Vainglory is simpler, so those patterns are much more recognizable. And like for instance, do teams 3v2, how many times do they 3v2 versus a 3v1 versus a 3v3? How often do they engage team fights? Where do they engage team fights? How often are they fighting in the jungle or fighting in the lane? These are very important from an analyst side to understand how a team behaves. And if you gave a lot of stats like that, it would be great, but it may make it a lot easier for these teams that have the resources to kind of go through these numbers to really
That's true,
learn a competitive advantage. To me, I think that's important. I think it's important to have that. Orgs that put money into it, they want to have that advantage for the money they put into it, and you want to give them a game that motivates them to want to put that money into those resources.
For sure. All right, well, on that, I think we should get out of here. A lot of DragonBorne. Thanks for joining me. This was awesome.
Oh, not a problem. Maybe went a little too long on certain subjects. The competitive side, obviously, with this is what I love most about Vainglory at this time. So I'm very passionate. Going to talk hours about that.
Well, it's showing from where you started just streaming, just having fun playing the game, to now helping run Phoenix and running these two tournaments, and like it's pretty awesome to see that path and where you kind of focused your time and energy.
A lot of time.
So where can people find you? Twitter the best place, or on the streams probably, right?
Right now, it is Twitter at DragonBorne VG. I do not stream on my personal stream as much as I wish I could. I would love to stream every day. I practically do stream every day, some weeks, but I cannot possibly stream on my personal and do all the VIS. So I would say, you want to see me, go follow VIS League on Twitch or VIS League VG on MobCrush. As I will be streaming there, doing casting, doing the analyst desk, producing the show. So you can come see me potentially make a blunder or something like that. No, it's a pretty great production. And you can also, I'd also say, if you don't already, one of the things I'm also involved with is the Phoenix YouTube channel. There's a lot of great YouTube creators out there, but if you want a very heavy competitive YouTube channel, Team Phoenix does take and produce and get all the competitive VIS video footage up there. And we also do this really cool thing, and I'm going to plug it because it's really cool, and I don't know if a lot of people know about it, is we do a top plays video.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. We have Brerman, you may know him from Ardent. or we have some other casters. I did one myself where we kind of just highlight top plays in VG. But what's really cool is it's user submitted, which means anybody that's listening can submit it at top VG plays. And you can, and every week we try to do it every week, produce a new episode. They're really short, they're really fun. Just want to throw that out there. So that's where you can reach me though, on Twitter. I actually love people messaging me or following me or asking me questions. I'm pretty engaged.
You're pretty active in the community on Twitter there, yeah.
It's actually hard not to be as active as I want to be. There's so many tweets where I'm like, oh, let me not insert myself there. That is going to be a problem. But no, I love responding to people, and I wish I could talk to more people. I wish people knew about me and knew who I was so they would talk to me.
Well, yeah, so follow them up. I'll include links in the show notes in the description here. And Shatter the Vain's on Twitter at Shatter the Vain. Website shatterthevain.com. All the episodes get posted there. Links to iTunes, the YouTube version, Stitcher as well. So all the ways to watch and listen. And yeah, so that'll do it for episode 114. Probably coming back with a patch rundown for 1.21 here in the next couple days. So keep a lookout for that.
Can't wait.
And thanks for listening.
Thank you. The best podcast in Vainglory.
Shatter the Vain.
Let's get this over with.